गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Many times people ask me this question, and probably they ask all the teachers: is there a necessity of a guru? Is it paramount to have a guru in life? What can you answer such people? This question itself is coming because that person doesn't want to surrender, doesn't believe or have faith that that there is someone higher. He feels or she feels, or the person feels, why should I go he or she? The person feels. Please put your audio off who has just come in. Put your audio off. They feel that they don't have to surrender to anyone, they don't have to bow down to anyone, that they can realize by themselves, they can come to know themselves by themselves. And it is absolutely right. There is nothing wrong with that. Because in the end, Uddharet Atmana Atmanam, you have to raise yourself by yourself without any support from outside. But so that we do not get lost in the bylanes of the world, that we do not get entangled in various thought streams, ideas, imaginations, there needs to be a guide. How will you recognize it? So we need the grace of the scriptures, we need the grace of the God, we need the grace of the Guru Maharaj. And what is that Guru Maharaj? In this chapter we saw Jnaneshwara Maharaj has plentifully explained without getting tired, full of inspiration, again and again and again and again. But how many OVs? How many OVs did he cover in this? 70, 80 OVs. He is trying to pour out his devotion, his commitment, his grace, the grace that he has experienced from his Guru Maharaj. And he doesn't consider the Guru Maharaj to be separate from him. At a relative level, yes, it seems that the Guru Maharaj is separate. But what is that Guru Maharaj teaching you? What is that scripture teaching you? Yesterday also the same point came in our Bhagavad, that a seeker is seeking only because he feels that the reality, the divinity is separate from him. See? Therefore he is seeking. He is seeking a destination. He is seeking somewhere to reach. Not recognizing that he himself is the destination in essence. And as long as he is seeking, he will never reach, because he is keeping the goal objective. It has to be subjective. And this turn, this U-turn of from objective search to subjective search, to subjective, not even search, subjective abidance, subjective realization, subjective discovery, subjective recognition, is what the job of a guru is in our life. And what does he say? Yesterday, Krishna Bhagwan is telling us the highest truth. Before he gave the yoga marg, Sankhya marg, then he gave the puja marg or kriya yoga marg, and now he is giving the highest truth in 28th chapter of the 11th canto in Uddhav Gita. It's complete Vedanta, same thought. In the first verse itself he says, do not praise anyone in the world, or do not expect praise from anyone in this world. Do not condemn anyone in this world, and do not feel condemned by anyone in this world. When will this happen? Only when we realize, or we have the vision, that the entire universe is made up of divinity. Abhinna nimitta upadana karan. Abhinna, undifferentiated. Nimitta, efficient cause. Upadana, material cause. So the material cause and the efficient cause are not separate. Abhinna, they are one and the same. When this, and this is exactly the topic that we are seeing in Ishavasya Upanishad also. Ishavasya midagam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaptena bhunjithaha magruda kasya svidhanam. Do not covet wealth, do not pass comments, do not pass opinions, do not initiate differentiation, biasness, judgment about anything or anyone. Do not ask about past or future. Who is going to tell you all this? Are we self-sufficient to remember these points again and again? If we are, then you won't be sitting here listening. See? So scriptures are telling us, and who is the guru? Who is telling us the scriptures in such a way that we understand. And what is he trying to say? What is the approach of a disciple towards the teacher, and the teacher's approach towards the disciple? The Guru Maharaj, whether you take the Guru Maharaj as a teacher outside, or you take the Guru Tattva or the Guru Maharaj as the principle, the Atmic principle within, or the Brahmic principle, whichever way you put, or you take it as God. What is the approach of the Guru Maharaj? His approach is Abhinna Nimitta Upadan. He sees that the disciple is not separate from him. So the Leela is going on. And what is the student's or the disciple's approach towards the teacher or the Guru Maharaj? Is he true? Is he realized? Does he know? Is he giving the correct meaning of the words? But he is younger than me. I am more older. I am wiser. I have seen more seasons than him. Why should I listen to him? Seeker approaches a common, in parlance we are saying, a person approaches with doubt and suspicion. Because there is no parameters for him to come to know that this teacher is knowing or not knowing. But he has found, the seeker has found himself in front of the teacher. Then what works when we are in front of the teacher? What works when we are in front of the scriptures? What works when we are in front of the God? Only faith and reverence. The more faith and reverence we have, to that extent, even from a thief we can learn. Even from the most corrupted person we can learn. Important thing is our bosom must become corruption free. And what is corruption? Doubt and suspicion. Guru Maharaj's bosom, heart is free of corruption. He is all inclusive. He accepts everything as I. Just as you accept your right hand, left hand, head, toe, everything as I, without any thought. You don't have discrimination here that I am not this or I am not that. Guru Maharaj's disposition is that this entire universe is I without a thought. And when it is required, he uses the thought also. It happens out of him. And the purpose of the Guru Maharaj, the grace of the Guru Maharaj, the teaching of the Guru Maharaj is to bring you to this climax, to this realization, to this abidance. And all he can do is show the way. All he can do is show the way. The hard work has to be done by the student, because the problem is with the student, not with the teacher. If actually speaking, there is no problem, but the student imagines that there is a problem, and the problem is that he is not realized. Because the problem is he is seeing this Guru Maharaj as separate to himself. The problem is he is thinking that he is this body. Even being the body is not a problem. You know this. Even body identification is not a problem. You have never said that, Swamiji, before? Always say, get body disidentified, body disidentified. You are saying that being the body is not a problem? No. Then what is the problem? Only this body I am is the problem. Expand to include all the bodies. Then no problem. But only this body and the rest of the bodies I am not. Tree I am not, husband I am not, children I am not, my parents are separate to me, animals are separate to me. Then fear comes in, then sense of security. So even being body is not a problem. So this transformation in our approach to ourselves is what the scriptures and the Guru Maharaj teaches us. For that, we need to go to a Shrotriya Brahmanist. We need to go to a person who is established, and that we will never come to know whether a person is realized or not realized. Then whatever life naturally, effortlessly has brought in front of you, you approach with that teacher, with faith, reverence. And if that teacher is, and how do you know that a person is, what do you call, Shrotriya Brahmanist? How do you know a person knows, the teacher knows? I'm talking at the relative level. How do we know that the teacher knows? Is there any way you can assess the teacher? Never. Then what do the Mahatmas say? These things are not given anywhere. And what do Mahatmas say? Mahatma says, any person in whose presence your mind naturally becomes calm, serene, quiet, that from that person you study. Whether you study scriptures or you be in their presence, but that is a different path, that you be in their presence. Here we are on the path of knowledge. Then you interact with that person, and naturally speaking, everyone wants to be in the company of a person who's happy, not a person who's miserable all the time, isn't it? See? So wherever naturally, effortlessly, all our questions come to be zero, all our questions without asking are answered, understand that is where you have to go and study, or you have to be available. And if not, continue till you come across, as you purify. Teacher cannot purify you. You have to purify. You have to do the hard work. The doubt is in you. The seeking is in you. So as you purify, and if the person in front of you was not Shrotriya Brahmanist, then automatically, as your purification goes, you go through the process of purification, the next teacher will come into your life. Not that you are going seeking for him or her. The teacher will come into your life. And such a teacher, who is the Shrotriya Brahmanist? Shrotriya Brahmanist is a person who is established in the truth, who is able to communicate the truth, who is living the truth on the daily basis. See? And our Jnaneshwar Maharaj, he was absolutely in love with his Guru Maharaj, and he can't stop talking about him after every few verses. After every few sentences, he has to bring the Guru Maharaj, and in this chapter it is totally about the Guru Maharaj. And our Swami Anubhavanand is giving the summary of this whole chapter. He says, Guru holds the highest altar for Sant Jnaneshwara. If we want to be a student, whoever the teacher is in front of us, we must have the highest reverence for that person within us. Only then knowledge gets transferred from the teacher to the student. First you, as a student, as a disciple, first you practice it with a physical teacher, and then you practice it by contemplating on the Guru within. As you keep practicing this, slowly the journey will go within, because the true Guru is within. That Guru within is alone expressing as the Guru without. If we continue to be in doubt and suspicion and judgment about the teacher without, then we will be having the same attitude towards the Guru within. Is Atma there or not there? See? So this is a practice which the student has to go through, not the Guru Maharaj. Because the idea of realization, the idea of spirituality is in the mind of the student. The body identification is in the mind of the student. Jnaneshwar Maharaj holds the highest altar for Sant Jnaneshwara. He is never tired of expressing his gratitude to his teacher whenever he has to say anything in relation to the worldly or spiritual life. Okay? Another thing about Guru Maharaj is, out of his infinite love, he is again and again able to present the knowledge with an untiring zest to whoever demands out of him. With inspiration. Never gets tired of it. And so also here, Jnaneshwar Maharaj is never, now from the, this is from the Guru's point of view, now the disciple. Guru, Jnaneshwar Maharaj is the disciple. He is never tired of expressing his gratitude to his teacher whenever he has to say anything. Why is that he is not tired? Because he has come to realize that this, because of this Guru, I have come to realize the Guru within. See? Because if I say, oh, I don't know if this Guru knew or not, but he did teach me something, I learned some things from him, I studied Bhagavad Gita from him, I studied this, but I did put all my efforts and I came to realize. This is the language of arrogance. Realization is not a result of kartrutva abhiman. It's not the result of arrogance. It is a result of grace. And that recognition then starts expressing through words too. And that's what we saw in this chapter of by Jnaneshwar Maharaj. Whenever he has to say anything in relation to the worldly or spiritual life. So we have created two lives, worldly and spiritual. From Guru's point of view, from the Guru Tattva point of view, here in this case from Nivrittinath point of view as well as Jnaneshwar Maharaj point of view, in language, yes, these two words do come about because language is limited. But both these masters are established in that one reality which alone is expressing as the spiritual on one side and the worldly on the other. Just like the same reality is expressing as Guru on one side and the disciple on the other. The same reality is expressing as consciousness on one side and matter on the other. The same reality is expressing as the Purusha and the Prakriti, as the Shiva and the Shakti. You see? This, both of these, Nivrittinath, the Guru Maharaj, as well as the Jnaneshwar Maharaj, both have come to realize this. And this recognition is expressing in these OVs and in these verses. The first chapter gave us the vision of non-duality through the Shiva Shakti Samavesh. There we saw the Paramashiva alone expresses as the Shiva Shakti. Because Shiva Shakti have appeared, there is no loss in that one without a second principle called Paramashiva. Because the ornaments have appeared, there is no loss of gold in the element gold. Because the waves have appeared, there is no loss in the water, infinite waters. See? In the light of this vision of the truth, the disciple Sant Jnaneshwara fondly remembers the grace of his Guru which granted him Jivan Mukti. See? I am realized. No. By the grace of the Guru Maharaj, by the grace of the Lord, the realization has happened. Because if I say I am realized, then again ego has come up. It has shown its hood. It has that I had done something to realize now. Here we are trying to dissolve all doing. Ego is the karta and bhokta. Ego is the doer. We have to go beyond that. No spiritual practice can be conclusive. Without the grace of the Guru. And therefore it is so important to have the respect and reverence for the Guru Maharaj. If we have that he is a uncooked guru, okay, I will study with him for some time and then I will find a better one. These thoughts come in every seeker's mind, don't worry. Then, if this is the idea that is going on, you will keep attracting such type of a guru in your life. Like a person divorces because he thinks that he cannot get along with his or her wife, partner, then gets married again and again gets exactly the same type of person in his life. For some years it's okay, and then again dissatisfaction. Same thing happens with discipleship also, or devotees also. They go from one guru to another, they go from one god to another, they go from one country to another. They go from one pilgrimage to another pilgrimage, they go from one text to another text. It's the same thing, because we have outsourced it. We have outsourced it. Then what should be the approach? No, our pilgrimage should be the pilgrimage to the Guru Maharaj, or any pilgrimage to the temple or to our altar in home or to whoever is appearing in front of us. And when we are living this life, we are on a pilgrimage in this life. Let our attitude be that of respect, reverence, and unconditional love towards everything and everyone. Then we are truly on a pilgrimage in our daily life. Then we will not seek the special pilgrimage to go to Kailash. Then we will not seek a special ritual of puja in order to have connection with God. I'm not saying that is wrong, but the attitude behind it, the intention behind it. Are we doing it mechanically, or are we doing the puja with respect and reverence? Are we coming to the Sunday morning class mechanically, or are we approaching it with respect and reverence? Many people I have seen that to their guru they will touch their feet, but to other masters they will not touch their. He is not my guru. See, guru's job is to inculcate within us that we see the guru tattva everywhere, all pervasive, and see how we behave. We go if we are Vaishnavas, we go to Vishnu temple, but we don't go to Shiva temple. If we are a disciple of one master, we have respect and reverence for him, but not for the other sannyasis. If we have respect for the sannyasis, we don't have respect for grahasthas. If we have respect for grahasthas, we do not have respect for sannyasis. This approach has to get out of our system. Then alone we are spiritually advancing. न प्रशंसा न निंदा, कोई निंदो कोई वंदो. Don't get into that. There the bhajan says that always someone is singing your praise or someone is condemning you. But here we are talking subjectively. You don't condemn anyone, you don't praise anyone. You don't get excited, you don't get depressed. And that will be only possible when you see everything as one. And that one vision of oneness can be can come about only by the grace of the Guru Maharaj. He is the embodiment of compassion for the upliftment of the seeker from the pangs of relativity. A disciple is a disciple because he accepts the duality as the norm. Guru is Guru because he accepts the oneness as the norm, in spite of the duality. And his continuous, incessant, whatever, uh, uh, what is the word? I can't. In essence, what? Anyway, whatever it is, his continuous effort is. Efforts means again duality. He is teaching the disciple, but while teaching the disciple, he is not losing the oneness. And by teaching, by inspiring, by guiding, by showing the path, by presenting different paths, he out of his infinite compassion, he wants the disciple also to come and realize where he is established. Because that is the truth, that everything is one. Even disciple is nothing but, in essence, the Guru Tattva, that the Guru knows. And therefore here it is said, he is the embodiment of compassion for the upliftment of the seeker from the pangs of relativity. He is ready to be misunderstood by the disciple. It's okay. He understands because he has also gone through that particular process. That in the disciple such doubts come, such questions come, such vairagya comes, where at times it happens that we become detached to the Guru Maharaj also. It happens because that is our natural state, but it has to be approached positively. That the teacher teaches us, the scriptures teach us. And compassion, why? They are ready to explain it again and again and again and again without getting tired. Without getting tired. See? We open Bhagavad Gita, read a few verses and we go to sleep. See? But here we are talking about the same thing. The great masters, even today, so many teachers are there who are teaching again and again the same thing over and over and over and over and over again without getting tired. On the negative side, without getting tired. Positive side, with inspiration, with joy they are teaching. That is the compassion. For the upliftment of the seeker from the pangs of relativity. He is the destroyer of the sense of limitation that the seeker suffers from. How will the seeker's suffering and which is due to the sense of limitation, how will it be destroyed? When the seeker comes to realize that in essence he is the Guru Tattva, he is the Atma Tattva, he is the Paramashiva, he is the infinite one without a second principle. See? This is how the suffering goes away. Because it was not there in the first place. We imagined it. Who imagined it? The individual imagined it. The ego imagined it. Why did it imagine it? Because it gave credence, it gave importance to the separation, it gave importance to the differences. It did not give importance to the inclusivity, that everything is one. It never thought about it. It was never taught that, even though that was the natural state. It was taught parents are separate, children are separate, husband is separate, world is separate, waking is separate, dream is separate. But what is the foundation of all this separation? That nobody ever told us. That only the Guru Maharaj tells us. That only the scriptures tell us. Or the words of the great masters, realized masters, they tell us. This is the Aptavachan of Jnaneshwar Maharaj. These are words of a great master. Therefore it is a scripture. In his compassionate look, the bondage becomes liberation. When we are in the presence of the teacher, when the teacher, when the Guru Maharaj gives us attention, we feel blessed. Don't you say, when you go to the temple and you are chanting Om Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam, and as the arti is going on in the temple or at home, suddenly the flower from the hands of the Lord falls down, you feel blessed. Don't you feel that way? You feel, you get, the moment you get a sign, you feel that your prayers have been accepted, that it was a divine moment. You walk for 8-9 hours to go to Kedarnath, and when you reach there, the moment you reach, the gates of the door open and there is no crowd, and you are without any dhakka mukki, without any pushing and shoving. Someone comes and takes you straight to the altar without demanding any money, without anything. Come Mahatmaji, or come whoever it is. You feel, oh wow, my devotion, my availability must have been good. Immediately it goes to me that I must have done something punya in my life, that it is happening. Immediately we go into cause and effect. So here also the Bhagwan Jnaneshwar Maharaj is saying that in his compassionate look, the bondage becomes liberation. At that moment of grace being bestowed, by whichever way, by way of complete contentment, by way of the Atma, the glimpse of the self within, by way of non-eruption of any desires within our mind, by way of a disposition of unconditional love towards the entire universe, by way of body disidentification. I can go on and on, there is no end to this. By way of not giving praise or insult, or not even waiting for someone's praise or insult. Not getting excited by someone's praise, nor getting depressed by someone's insult. These are all signs. Kataksha Netra, where by the glimpse of the Guru Maharaj, this is the glimpse of the Guru Maharaj. This is how it expresses. An unalloyed joy fills up our bosom. The compassionate look, the bondage becomes liberation. At that very moment, the moment child goes into the embrace of his mother, he forgets fear, whatever he was afraid of. he feels he's taken care of. The moment we think of the Guru, Maharaj, that very moment our agitated mind settles down. The moment I hold on to my japa mala, on which I have been doing my japa for years together, the moment I take it, immediately the mind settles down without putting any efforts. The moment you go to your seat of meditation, automatically you are withdrawn. Just like the moment you go and stand in front of your wife, you become a submissive husband. Automatic. You don't have to try because you have practiced it for so long. The moment you look at your children, automatically the nurturing mother expresses herself. Automatic. Similarly, when we are in the moment Guru's what do you call, the moment Guru's eyes fall on us, he looks at us, he becomes available to us by whichever way, that very moment bondage turns into liberation. We feel we are totally taken care of. See? For this to happen, that I am totally taken care of, we have to make sure that within our mind the idea of Guru, our definition of Guru is crystal clear, as I have been explaining till now. Not have your own default setting that Gurus are is like this or Guru is like that. No, this is how the Guru is, as we have explained today or throughout this chapter. Then the Guru even surpasses the Lord by revealing the essential divine nature as the mirror does it effortlessly. Guru Gobind dou khade kako lagu paye. God is standing in front of me and Guru Maharaj is standing in front of me. Whom should I surrender myself to? This question is coming because you feel that you three are separate. You, the Guru Maharaj and the God. These three are separate. Who teaches? Can God teach you scriptures? That God alone is coming in your life as the teacher. God is busy creating, maintaining and destroying. Well, actually he also doesn't do that. He is being who he is, divinity. See? And for the benefit of the disciple, that divinity alone is expressing as the Guru Maharaj. And Guru Maharaj is teaching you the secret of the divinity, is showing you the path of divinity, is explaining you to the words of the scriptures, the Gita, which is given by the Lord, the Vedas given by the infinite. He makes it digestible, that knowledge. Who? The Guru Maharaj. And what happens as a result of that? You are able to understand what is the position of God in our life, what is the position of the world in our life, what is our position, who are we really, what is the position of the Guru Maharaj in our life. If without these 80 OVs of Jnaneshwar Maharaj, would we have been able to understand the Guru Tattva in such depth all by ourselves? Not possible, no? But when we are reading it, when we are listening to it, at that time we feel we are there. We have got no doubt. We feel the gratitude within our heart that, oh my God, what a wonderful text this is. What wonderful ideas that have been presented. And because of that, we feel the gratitude. Now, don't go into this imagination that because of my punya I have got this. No, it has come because of the grace of the Paramatma, grace of the Guru Tattva. Because we have to continue to apply ourselves to the knowledge that is coming towards us, towards the Guru Maharaj who is in our life, towards all the experiences in our life. Our approach is everything is the Guru alone, everything is the Atma alone, everything is the infinite reality alone. That is our approach. Who is a brahmachari? Who walks the path to Brahman. Who is a Brahmin? Who is continuously contemplating on Brahman. Who is a seeker? Who is continuously seeking the duality, thinking about duality, maintaining duality. Or seeker is he who is, in spite of living in the duality, is recognizing the one without a second principle as the I, as the self. He is a seeker. See? So Guru even surpasses the Lord by revealing the essential divine nature. We get lost in Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. They also have to eventually go out of existence when the pralaya comes. Who is this Ishvara? Who is telling you? The script, how did you come to know there is Ishvara? Because of the family that you are born in, because of the teachers that you had, because of the scriptures that you have exposed yourself to. That's why you know there is God. You are not born with the God thought in your mind. We are lost in this type of God or that type of God. Eventually we come to realize, array, God is, Ishvara is Nirgun Nirakar, or what do you call? Sagun Nirakar or Sagun Sakar. Who tells you this? Again, the scriptures are telling you. At a very gross level, Sagun Sakar. At a subtle level, Sagun Nirakar. At a transcendental level, Nirgun Nirakar. Now, to be rather than understanding this is how the divinity expresses, the Lord expresses, then getting obsessed, no, I am a follower of this, or I am a follower of that, or I am a follower of this, and creating distinction again and getting lost in it. Who teaches you all this? That not to get lost in it. Understand it as a principle. It's a phenomena that is going on. A divine phenomena, which is called Leela. Just by taking the Bhagavad Gita by yourself and studying it, you will never understand all this. The Guru even surpasses the Lord by revealing the essential divine nature, as the mirror does it effortlessly. Just as when we stand in front of the mirror and the reflection comes about effortlessly and we recognize it is ours, we don't give it a sense of reality. When we are looking at the reflection, our attention is on our face, the real face, We know the mirror is the reflection in the mirror is existing in its own absence. So is this entire. So is this entire. The teacher teaches us to look at everything as our own reflection. But what is happening to a common man and to many seekers? They look at the whole world, they talk about it, everything is my reflection, but they get caught up in the reflection, taking it real. Do you take your reflection in the mirror real, or you take your original face as real? Do you comb the hair of the reflection, or you comb your own hair? Do you trim the mustache of the reflection, or you trim your own mustache? Do you put lipstick in the mirror, or do you put your lipstick on the original lips? This is the mistake a seeker is doing. He understands this is all my reflection, only here. If it is a reflection, then why this unwanted disposition towards the reflection? Possessions, relations, past, future, ambition, investments, birth, death, birthdays, the Panchamahabhuta, space, air, fire, water, earth, everything starting from God till the micro. Everything is the reflection of the self. If you are looking at this world, where should be our attention? When we are interacting, going through this world, where should be our attention? It should be on ourselves. But instead, what do? We give importance to the reflection. And the Guru Maharaj teaches us to become dispassionate towards the reflection, withdraw away from the reflection. It is so difficult. Why it is so difficult? When you stand in front of the mirror, is it difficult to move away from your own reflection? Think. This is called contemplation. Till we don't become convinced of this principle that we are not attached to our reflection. There are many fools who spend many hours in front of the mirror. But whatever they do, they are still looking at the reflection, they are working on themselves. They like the beauty reflected in the mirror. You also like the world because it is your reflection. So right now we are reflection oriented. We want to be the origin oriented, and that the teacher Guru Maharaj teaches us, guides us, helps us. That is what is told in this verse, in this sentence. As a mirror does it effortlessly. So at a very, very subtle level, the thoughts appearing in our mind are the reflections of the self alone. The waves erupting in the waters are water alone. Don't fight with the thoughts. We have to become all-inclusive. Abhinna nimitta upadan karan. That is your true nature. Another word that is used in our scriptures is karamlavat. Just like a gooseberry in your palm. Just like reflect, here it is told that just as the divine nature is reflected effortlessly by the mirror, the face is reflected effortlessly by the mirror. Karamlavat means who you are as you are becomes as easily available as a gooseberry in your palm. You don't have to go and seek it, it's already there. What effort have you put in order to create the reflection in the mirror? Nothing. Have you put any effort? What effort have you put to come and sit and listen? This is your reflection. If you are subjective. Because the Guru Tattva is not one per person, it is the one. So we have only created this reflection and we are interacting, and we are serving ourselves by being available. Like we serve ourselves by being available to the mirror. See, the discovery of oneness in the experience of duality is sportingly given by the Guru. See, in spite of the duality, oneness is not lost. Oneness is not covered. In duality, there is cause and effect. In duality, there is sense of otherness. In duality, there are differences. But this oneness, which alone is expressing as duality, has not undergone duality, has not undergone the sense of otherness in spite of duality expressing. The gold, in spite of becoming a necklace or an anklet, has not become dual. Gold element remains gold only. The water, in spite of becoming many waves, continues to be the one infinite waters. Now apply this on yourself. In spite of the multitude of thoughts, multitude of differences, seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting, and the variety of stimuli, all this is still one. How? That is the spiritual. That the teacher, through the scriptures, teaches you how to contemplate on that. And for that, one has to be having respect, reverence, surrender, non-judgmental attitude, no comparison, complete availability, be empty when you are when you are in a satsang. All the efforts of the seeker are fulfilled on reaching the holy feet of the Guru, as the Ganga fulfills her journey on reaching the ocean. The moment we approach a teacher with respect and reverence, that very moment the unfoldment begins. That very moment the unfoldment begins. If you are hungry and the moment you start eating, your stomach has started filling up slowly, and eventually there will be a burp. Oh, now you know you are full. Even though we approach with doubt, suspicion, little bit of reverence, little bit of respect to the teacher, but the moment you approach a teacher, that very moment you are getting filled up, you are being cajoled towards your essential nature. Whether you know it or you don't know it, whether you recognize or you don't recognize the process, but the moment you are in his presence, within or without, the unfoldment begins. You cannot think of sun as darkness. Whether you look at the sun outside in the sky or you imagine sun in your mind. Can you see it dark without light? Impossible, isn't it? Same way. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam. Guru is that. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam. He is the light of all lights. In his presence, even by mere thought, mere attention, mere remembrance, the darkness vanishes. The duality vanishes. The doubts vanish. The suspicion vanishes. Then, in its place, a sense of contentment, acceptance, divine bliss expresses. Just as the Ganga fulfills her journey on reaching the ocean, Ganga reaching the ocean and losing its individuality is the end game. See, here the sentence is this, but I am giving you a different interpretation of it. That is the end game. With the last breath, we have come to merge into the infinite. But what is the nature of Ganga? She is Jnana and Bhakti Rupini. Who is a Jivan Mukta? Is Jivan Mukta Purush become Jivan Mukta Purush after the conclusion of the body or while living? While living, isn't it? When we approach, so here, same way, that even while the journey of life is continuing, the journey will continue till this body is there. Let it continue. But now the one who was thinking, this is my only body, this is the body that I am, has transcended this limitation, and he has come to realize that all bodies are in me, I am in all the bodies. And the journey is continuing of this body. But now no longer this is my body. If it lives, it lives. If it doesn't live, it doesn't live. Who cares? Everything is divine. He is unfettered. By the diseases, by ill health of this body. And you can see enough masters, Ram Sukdas ji, Ramakrishna Paramhans, Ramana Maharishi. They did not ever complain even once about their disease. When asked, I am the disease also. Nothing is outside of me. I am the cancer. Can you say, I am the pain? It is so much painful, my leg is hurting so much, I need to go to the doctor, I need to do this, I need to do that. Why? Because I am the body. Instead of confirming that I am the body, keep reconfirming I am the spirit, I am the all-inclusive principle. To that extent, you will be body disidentified even while living. And it is possible. And it can happen any moment. Which words in a satsang can trigger that? You don't know. We must be available to the satsang as much as possible, because even though we have heard it same thing many times, but which one at which moment? Because your mind is continuously changing. It all requires, you don't need to keep lighting matchstick after matchstick to light a fire. Only one spark is enough and the fire catches on. Only one thought expression, idea, some principle in the satsang, it has to catch your imagination, and it happens only by grace. Our Guru Maharaj coming into our life, scriptures coming into our life, God coming into our life, our love towards these three, our availability towards these three, it's not our availability, it's by God's grace. Our ability to understand the scriptures, it's also God's grace. You did not do anything. You are going through your life and these things are happening in your life by grace of God. See? So even this body disidentification, it will happen. But it is directly proportional to our availability. And our availability has to be with joy. It should not be serious availability. It should not be a miserable availability. It should not be a complaining availability. It should not be, it is too difficult availability. It should be, yes, it is possible. I got no doubt about it. A total abandonment. Just like the child does not want, he feels totally taken care of. Totally taken care of by the mother. We must have this feeling in our heart. We are totally taken care of by the Guru Maharaj, the Guru Principal, the Ishvara at any given moment. And that will reflect through your language when you are speaking. It will reflect through the thoughts that you are thinking. If you are totally taken care of, then there is no agitation, there is no restlessness, there is acceptance, there is unconditional love towards one and all. The purity distilled through the grace of the Guru transcends all relativity to such an extent that the disciple and the Guru relationship becomes unrelational in his grace. How beautiful. Just as thinking about sun cannot precipitate darkness in your vision or your mind. Similarly, being available to the Guru, Tattva, being available to the scriptures as the Guru, to being available to the Guru Maharaj who is explaining the scriptures, understand the principle. It does not allow the ignorance to make a stand. Does not. Therefore, you will see many places great masters say, oh, Guru Maharaj, I am not able to do this, I am not able to do this, I feel anxious. The Guru Maharaj says, don't worry about it. Whenever you feel anxious, immediately you think about me. He is not on an ego trip. He knows who he is. Who is he? He is the infinite. He is a Jivan Mukta. Therefore, when he tells the devotee that you think of me in your times of trouble, and solution will appear. See? So what is happening? His obsession with the obstacle or the problem in his mind, because of which he was getting, this devotee was getting overwhelmed, or the seeker was finding a problem to move ahead. The moment he thinks of the Guru Maharaj or the Lord, both are one, or the Atma, all three are one. The moment he thinks about contemplates, brings the vision, because Nirgun Nirakar very difficult to think. So we bring the image of the Guru Maharaj or we bring the image of the Lord in our mind. At that very moment, what happens? Our fixation on the problem, our thought fixation with the problem gets dissolved, and now we shift our fixation towards the Guru Maharaj because we have love, reverence, respect, surrender towards the Guru or the Lord. So the energy which was going towards the wrong thoughts, towards the ignorant thoughts, is now shifted to the Guru Maharaj. Automatically, the other thoughts, the problematic thoughts, the anxious thoughts, they become important and eventually dissolve. Solution happens. Understand the principle. I keep repeating this. These are the principles on which our life must be based. This is, we are talking about, and in this nothing needs to be done. No yoga, no pranayam, no japa. Complete availability to the Guru principle. And with this understanding of the general principle on which the body, breath, mind, intellect, individuality is expressing, once we understand, and all you have to do is recognize a thing as it is. But what do? We look at a man and we call him a husband. We imagine. We look at a child and we call it my son or my daughter. We imagine. We look at gold and we call it ornament. We imagine. We are looking at the infinite self, but we calling it the world. We imagine. See how much disservice we are doing to ourselves. So this imagination, which hijacks our energy, hijacks our attention, because we were like that. Now by the introduction of the Guru Maharaj, Guru principle in our life, that hijacking of attention is cut. Our mind only thinks by way of thoughts. Before it was thinking of those thoughts which were out of ignorance. Now in those, we are still using thoughts, but we are bringing attention to the something positive, something auspicious, something reverential, something all-knowing, something infinite. And that is called the Guru. That is called God. That is called scriptures. As long as you keep it separate from you, yes, it will still help you. Just like we keep the sun separate from us, it is still illuminating, it is removing the darkness. So thinking about the Guru as a thought, it will still help. But as you continue this journey, like once upon a time when I never knew the scriptures, that time I used to do sadhana on the Tratak on the sun. But when I studied the Upanishads, there it was told, hey, who is illuminating the sun? I said, who is illuminating the sun? Sun is self-illumined. And the penny dropped for me the day this sentence came in the scriptures that eyes are illuminating the sun. Suddenly, in that one instance, the whole journey, the whole approach which was extroverted, even immediately become introverted. Then I didn't stop there. The verses afterwards came that what is illuminating the eyes, what is illuminating. Automatically my mind, the moment it came to this, heard this, that the sun is illumined by the eyes. Immediately my next question was, who's illuminating the eyes? Oh, the mind. Who's illuminating the mind? The intellect. Who's illuminating the intellect? The life, the consciousness. Straight back to your origin. But till then, I was living in the default. Default was because of sun, life is. No doubt it is at a relative level. But this is the transformation. Sometimes one word can just suddenly overhaul the whole process of approach. And when we are in a satsang, within or without, these clicks keep taking place again and again and again and again and again and again. It doesn't mean that throughout the class you have to keep having clicks. One click every class is enough. If it happens more, good. So the purity distilled through the grace of the Guru transcends all relativity. Relativity is darkness. Guru is illumination. And it's pure illumination. It's not illumination because of. There is no cause for that illumination. It is self-illumined. Who? The Guru Tattva, the Guru Maharaj. And in its presence, the darkness equal to ignorance, equal to avyakta, equal to duality, multiplicity, all that dissolves. And thus, the Guru transcends all relativity to such an extent that the disciple and the Guru relationships becomes unrelational. Merely by hearing, listening, interacting, reverentially approaching, contemplating on the Guru Tattva. Initially we begin with the Guru outside, then we shift to the Guru within. As we come to the Guru within, the Guru coming to realize that the Guru is one without a second, and this Guru is one without a second is not a through thoughts. And at that moment, the difference between the Guru and the disciple vanishes, dissolves. Or in other words, the disciple transcends the Guru-disciple relationship to be established in the Guru Tattva. Just as Jnaneshwar Maharaj is established in the Guru Tattva. But at the relative level, the drama continues. Guru Maharaj, the respect, reverence, surrender, gratitude, it continues. Not as a show off, not out of hypocrisy, out of genuineness. That genuineness is that we are one, yet the duality is going on. But we are not affected by the duality. So when I'm prostrate, when Jnaneshwar Maharaj is singing the praise of his Guru, Nivrittinath, or he is falling at his feet, he has not become less than his Guru. Oh, I think Jnaneshwar Maharaj is touching the feet of Nivrittinath, so which means Nivrittinath is greater and Jnaneshwar Maharaj is lower. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. But this is what a common man thinks like this. If one sannyasi touches the feet of another, a common man thinks, oh, I think he is greater sannyasi, that's why he is touching his feet. No, nothing like that. Parasparam bhavayanta. So then now from this point onwards, the Guru-disciple relationship becomes a relationless relationship. the seeker relationship with the Guru Tattva, with the Atmic Tattva, becomes an experienceless experience, because the material that has gone into the mind is nothing but that Atma, consciousness. And when the mind surrenders to the Atma by contemplating on it, it's an experienceless experience. Just as this is relationless relationship. Now continue further. Knowing less knowing, seeing less seeing, hearing less hearing, experience less experience. That is our natural state. This is what we have to realize. But right now we are caught up in the experience, in the realization. Relationship can be only where there is duality. Experience can happen only where there is duality. Seeing can happen only where there is seer and seen, duality. But what are we talking? Seer less, seeing less seeing, experience less experience, knowing less knowing, realization less realization. This is the transcendental state that the disciple has to come to realize, where he goes beyond all duality. In fact, for the joy of the game of Guru-Shishya duality, the Guru alone has taken these two roles. See? For the game to go on, for the creation to go on, look at yourself. You alone have taken the role of mother, you alone have taken the role of wife, you alone have taken the role of daughter, you alone have taken the role of friend. To continue the drama. But then we get lost in the roles rather than the original. We take the role to be more important than the substratum. Who is the substratum? The woman. Who has the problems and challenges? The role. Woman is content. Wife demands husband should behave like this. Wife demands the children should behave in this manner. Woman has got nothing. She doesn't demand. She is just as she is. So if you play it as a role without attachment to the role, even realized masters, Ramana Maharishi's mother came and lived with him, his brothers came and lived with him. But did he become a grahastha because of that? Did he? No. He continued to be who he was. Accept everything, reject nothing. Remember. And retain nothing. If someone is coming, let them come. If experience is coming, let it come. Accept everything that is coming towards you. Reject nothing, but don't make it into a memory. And that is only possible when we are in the presence of the Guru Tattva, when our attention is only on the Guru Tattva. Because memory is ignorance, memory is darkness. If that becomes importance, then the light will be gone. If you are in the presence of the light, then darkness is not possible. See? Understand the principle. The Guru alone has taken these two roles. The Guru alone is expressing, just as Paramashiva was expressing as the Shiva and Shakti, that same Guru Tattva alone is expressing as the Guru and Shishya. Why? Time pass. Now apply to yourself. that the reality that I am alone is expressing as the teacher who's teaching, and on the other hand is expressing as the mind or this individual who is learning. This way you take complete responsibility. You don't become a beggar. Realization doesn't come by begging. Realization doesn't happen by copying. If you are the all-inclusive principle, then you have to think about yourself in that manner. And that is the language which we are reading here. The Guru knows this while the disciple knows not. I have talked about this before. On approaching the Guru, the disciple is able to discard the vision of related perceptions and is able to perceive the relativity from the absolute standpoint. And this is our approach again and again and again and again. Every satsang that we are available to has only one purpose: shift our attention from the multiplicity to that one without a second principle, that I am. From relativity to the absolute, from the undivine to the divine, from the impermanent to the permanent, from the changing to the unchanging. That's all the journey is. Now, how you make that shift from changing to unchanging principle in one go, or you imagine a big long journey, that's up to you. That's also Leela. See? So when we come to a satsang, when we come in the presence of the Guru Maharaj, Guru Tattva, we are able to discard those thought processes, those notions, those convictions, those concepts which are not helping in our life to experience the tranquility, peace, contentment. Think. Able to remove the relativity from the absolute standpoint. Actually speaking, from an absolute standpoint, no relativity is possible only. So this dialogue of talking that the Guru Tattva alone is expressing as Guru and Shishya, the Paramashiva alone is expressing as Shiva and Shakti. This is a relative standpoint. We are looking at it from, this is being told to the relative person. From the sun's point of view, there is no day and night. Impossible. It doesn't know what darkness is, it doesn't know what daylight is. Then same way, Paramashiva also doesn't know who Shiva is and who Shakti is. Or the Guru Tattva doesn't know who is Guru Maharaj and who is the disciple. See? Water doesn't know that there is something called wave. It alone is. Gold doesn't know there is something called ornament. Then for whom is the ornament? Who are other than the gold, for them the ornament is. See? From the relative standpoint, ornament is. From the absolute gold point of view, there is no ornament. We'll stop here and continue the contemplation. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.